Like this. 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 Can you hear me? Like this. Can you hear me? Like this. Can you hear me? Thank you. We'll wait for the others. So, good afternoon, class. Mic test. Can you hear me clearly? Thank you. So, let's first honor God at this time. We praise you and thank you, O God, for your love for us. Help us as we study. Give us strength as we study this time of the afternoon. Protect us from the heat and help us. Take care of our loved ones too. Be glorified in us as we strive to follow what you want in our lives. All these we pray in the name of your dear Son who suffered for us. In Jesus' name, amen. So, class, I would like you to. class, I would like you to take notes, and I will wait for you as you take notes. Okay, I will wait for you as you take notes. So, Selson Murcia and Larson Freeman realized that the traditional categorization of future, present, past conditionals, those are very insufficient. And so they came up with their own categorization of conditionals. And here they are. Conditionals can be classified to factual, future, and imaginative. Factual, future, and imaginative. Conditionals can be classified to factual, future, or also known as predictive, and imaginative, or what we call subjunctive. Now let's start with factual conditionals. These are conditionals that express ideas largely considered as facts. Again, when we say factual conditionals, these are conditionals that express ideas largely considered as facts. They're facts. They're not opinions, they're not subjective expressions, they are facts. So, factual conditionals express ideas largely considered as facts. So, I hope you're taking notes. Factual conditionals have two subtypes. First is timeless, it's true throughout time. And we also have time bound, it refers to a specific time and location. So, timeless, time bound. Let's now talk about timeless conditionals. Timeless conditionals are true as time goes by. And there are two subtypes of factual conditionals: factual timeless conditionals. So, generic timeless conditionals, generic habitual factual conditionals. So, timeless generic factual, timeless habitual factual. Generic and habitual. Generic factual, habitual factual. Let's talk about generic factual conditionals. These are conditionals that express common facts about situations. They can be scientific facts. So they are true because they are general facts. So generic factual conditionals express common facts about situations. Here are examples. If water is boiled, it evaporates. If an appliance has a thermostat, it consumes a lot of electricity. If you mix red and blue, purple is formed. Okay, let me just again go to the toilet. So if water is boiled, it evaporates. If an appliance has a thermostat, it consumes a lot of electricity. If you mix red and blue, purple is formed. Notice that for generic factual conditionals, the present tense is used for both parts. So I would like you now to type a generic factual conditional into the chat box. Type a generic factual conditional into the chat box. Remember, they should have present tense in both parts of the conditional. Thank you, Janela. Lucille, that was our example. Correct, Angela. AVL, if you mix baking soda and vinegar together, makes a chemical reaction. Correct? Correct, Angel. Camille. So correct, Alex. Jimwell, correct. Collect, Ron Paulo. Okay, thank you, Jerwin. Ay, sorry about that. So Zarina, yes. Elizabeth, correct. Dominic, correct. Okay, so those are generic factual conditionals. Then we also have habitual factual conditionals. These are conditionals that express actions and results that are consistent. They're true because they are habitually true. So, habitual factual conditionals express actions and results that are consistent. They're consistent because they're habitual. Habitual factual conditionals are conditionals that express actions and results that are consistent. Okay, actions and results that are consistent. And here are habitual factual conditionals. If you sleep early, you wake up early. If you pass by the mall, you experience congestion. If Superman is present, Clark is absent. If you study well, you get high grades. So I will let you copy this. So Zarina, what you wrote is future conditional because you added will. So when you create factual conditionals, try to remove try to remove modals. So use present tense. Okay? So I would like you now to type a habitual factual conditional into the chat box. Zarina, you can just remove the can. No, mas maganda. It's so much better if you remove the can. Okay? So I would like you now to type a habitual factual conditional into the chat box. A habit about yourself. So Ferilyn, correct. Hannah, correct. Hazel, correct. Janella, correct. Chriselle, correct. Ayan, that's a nice question by Michael. Every time the alarm rings, I wake up. It's still a conditional. Yes. It's still a conditional. Very good. Okay, Ron, correct. Camille, correct. Okay, thank you. Also Alex and Jasmine. Okay. So again, factual conditionals can be classified to timeless and time bound. Timeless conditionals can be classified into generic and habitual. Okay, so conditionals can be classified into factual. Factual would be timeless and time bound. Timeless could be classified into generic and habitual. Now, for timeless conditionals, when or whenever can replace if. When the tide is low, you can see the outcroppings. Whenever the sun is setting, the sky turns reddish. When Superman is present, Clark is absent. Whenever you study well, you get high grades. So when or whenever can replace if. Okay, you can copy this. And yes, you can use the word every time, like Michael said. Every time the tide is low, you can see the outcroppings. Every time the sun is setting, the sky turns reddish. Every time Superman is present, Clark is absent. Every time you study well, you get high grades. Very good, Michael. Okay, merong example dito. If I frequently wash the dishes, my wife won't scold me. That's future. That's future. So you need to remove the modal. Isabel Beltran. If my brother cooks, I wash the dishes. Correct, Tisha? If I listen to music, I inevitably sing along. Correct. Okay, thank you. So again, when or whenever can replace if. Zarina, okay, that's great. Eating taho. Eat while you're young. So when the tide is low, you can see the outcroppings. Whenever the sun is setting, the sky turns reddish. When Superman is present, Clark is absent. Whenever you study well, you get high grades. Okay, thank you, Janella. Now, we said we have timeless conditionals. Timeless conditionals can be classified to generic and habitual, and they're always true because they're timeless. Whether they're habitual or generic, they're always true. Then we also have time bound conditionals. For time bound conditionals, the truth value is dependent on time. It depends on the situation. It's not always true. Truth value is dependent on time. It's not always true. And we have two subtypes of time bound conditionals. Number one, implicit reference. Number two, explicit reference. Implicit reference has no models, but explicit reference has models. Again, we have time bound conditionals. The truth value is dependent on time. It's not always true. It's true for a particular time only. And there are two subtypes of time bound conditionals, implicit reference and explicit reference. Implicit reference conditionals do not have an overt signal, such as a modal, but an explicit reference has an overt signal. That's why it's called explicit. Okay, let's talk about implicit inference conditionals. They refer to possibilities that are specific to an instance instead of common situations. They are time bound, therefore, when or whenever cannot be used. So here are examples of implicit inference conditionals. If they took the other route, they were able to avoid the traffic congestion. If you have the key, turn on the car. If today is Tuesday, then it's her birthday. Their implicit inference, they refer to only a specific time. Okay. Notice in these implicit inference conditionals, they don't have they don't have modals. If they took the other route, they were able to avoid the traffic congestion. If you have the key, turn on the car. If today's Tuesday, then it's her birthday. Now, because they are time bound, because they are time bound, they cannot be used with when or whenever. Because they are time bound, they cannot be used with because they are time bound, they cannot be used with because they are time bound, they cannot be. So when you replace if with whenever or when, they change it changes the meaning. The meaning changes. Okay? When they took the other route, they were able to avoid the traffic congestion. Whenever you have the key, turn on the car. When today is Tuesday, then it's her birthday. So the meaning changes. It's no longer the same sense as the original if sentence. Okay? So it's another it has a different meaning now. So implicit inference conditionals cannot be used with when or whenever. Because if you put when or whenever, the meaning changes. Okay, when you put when or whenever, the meaning changes. So type an implicit inference conditional into the chat box. Remember, it should not be generic, it should be for a specific time only. Okay, good so far. So Janella, this is uh, this is a habitual conditional. It's not time bound. It's timeless. Okay. Talk about something that's true for one situation but not all the time. Okay, it should be true for only one situation, not all the time. Okay, Alexander, because you have the word must there, it's an explicit inference conditional. It's not implicit because you have an overt, you have an overt signal. Okay. Okay, Ram, because you use past tense. If you took the train, then it must the is should also be was. Be consistent in your tenses. Very good, Michael. There is an actual signal that it's only one time because of the word today. Very good. Same thing with Hazel, the word today. But Hazel, you don't need to use would. You should use will. You use will for something that is true. You use would for something hypothetical. So replace the would with will. The same thing with Nicole, Jane. You also have a modal, so you have to remove the modal. Thank you, Ram. Correct. Correct, Isabel. Very good, Joe and Jet. Jerwin Roy. This is more of habitual because it's timeless. It's true all the time. Jerwin, it's true all the time. So you need to say something that um, happens only for one time. Okay, very good, Nicole. Yes, pwedeng gumamit ng kahit anong tense pag time bound. Okay, thank you, Alex. Very good, Elizabeth. So the test for time bound is, can you use the word when without changing the sense? Can you replace it with the word when? Sorry. For checking time bound, you should see that when you try to apply when, the meaning changes. So the test for timeless conditions is if you can replace the if with when. If you can replace the if with when and the meaning doesn't change, then it's a timeless conditional. But if you replace the if with the when and then the sense changes, then it's a time bound conditional. Okay? So you cannot use when or whenever in the implicit for implicit inference. You cannot use whenever because it's not true all the time. So you cannot use whenever. Okay? So that's a test. Now, we also have explicit inference conditionals. This is also time bound, just like implicit inference, but it is signaled by a modal, usually must or should. Okay? Explicit inference conditionals, they're also time bound, but they are signaled by a modal, usually must or should. So if they took the other route, they should have avoided the traffic congestion. If you spoke quietly, he should not have heard us. If you have the key, you must turn on the car. If today is Tuesday, then it must be her birthday. So the difference between explicit and implicit inference conditionals is that in explicit conditionals, there is an explicit signal like a modal. Okay, correct, Zarina. Okay, let's skip that. Let's go to future or predictive conditionals. Future or predictive conditionals. So Hannah, Jasmine pala. Jasmine, uh, let me see. Yes, that's correct, Jasmine. Hannah, Hannah. Parang predictive ito kasi future. Isabel, parang ano to. Kaya tama ito, Isabel. Okay, correct, Ram. Then we have future or predictive conditionals. They have present tense in the antecedent or the condition, and they have future indicator in the consequent, what we call the result. The idea of future is they predict something in the future. And they use present tense in the antecedent and future indicator in the consequent. So future conditionals, they use modals depending on certainty. The most certain is shall, then will, going to, should, may, might, could. So might and could, they are the least certain. So you can copy still. So you can still copy. Shall, will, going to, should, may, might, could. So here are examples of future conditionals. If you are good kittens, you shall have some pie. If you finish your vegetables, we will have ice cream for dessert. If the sky is clear, we may see Jupiter. If our antenna is fixed, the signal might become stronger. So these are predictive. Always bear in mind this is something that will happen in the future. Joe and Jet, that's a future conditional. So the difference between explicit inference conditional and future predictive conditional is that future conditional they predict what will happen. Explicit inference conditional they talk about something in the present. Now the certainty of the condition can also be weakened using should, happens to, or should happen to. Please copy this. Okay? If he should leave you, I will be here for you. I realize I have to underline. If he should leave you, I will be here for you. If it happens to rain, I will stay home. If if misfortune should happen to us, we will trust God. So notice class when we have will or shall, it's it's future conditional. If it's should or must, then it is explicit inference. The difference between explicit inference conditionals and future conditionals is that future conditionals predict what will happen in the future. Explicit conditionals do not predict what will happen in the future. They're present. If he should leave you, I will be here for you. If it happens to rain, I will stay home. If misfortune should happen to us, we will trust God. So they predict the future. That's why they use will or shall. Then we also have imaginative conditional sentences. Let me go back to the. Here they go. Conditionals. They're factual. They could be factual. They could be future or they could be imaginative. So imaginative conditional sentences. We have two types, hypothetical. It has some possibility of being true, and it's count and another one is counterfactual. It's really impossible. Hypothetical has some possibility of being true. Counterfactual is something impossible. Let's talk about hypothetical imaginative conditional sentences. Hypothetical imaginative conditionals. Hypothetical are unrealized or unlikely, but has some small possibility of coming true. They're unlikely, but they have some small possibility of coming true. So they are hypothetical. And here are examples. If I had enough money, I would visit Spain. If my teacher should have the time, she would write a novel. If my teacher could have the time, she could write a novel. Now, because this is imaginative, you use would and could. Again, imaginative conditional sentences could be hypothetical or counterfactual. And hypothetical Conditional sentences are unlikely, but there's some small possibility that it could happen. And here are examples. If I had enough money, I would visit Spain. If my teacher should have the time, she would write a novel. If my teacher could have the time, she could write a novel. So, class, it would be very well if you use the same tense. Now, the condition in a hypothetical conditional can be further weakened when you use signals such as should happen to. Should happen to. Notice for the last two, happen to has ed. Happen in the last case doesn't have an ed because you already have the word should. And here are examples. If I should love again, it would be you. If you happen to come back to the Philippines, let's go to Boracay. If the archaeologist should happen to step on an old caltrop, his foot would swell. A caltrop, by the way, class, is a spike in the buried on the ground. So when soldiers step on that and they don't have protective shoes, that would be very painful. By the way, a caltrop again is something that it's a weapon that's juts out of the ground. Then we also have counterfactual conditional sentences. They are impossible, they run contrary to what is presently true. They're counterfactual. They run contrary to what is presently true. And here are examples. If my grandfather were alive today, he would be 109 years old. If I could turn back time, I would fix my mistakes. If you had not let him go, you would still be happy. If only medical care weren't so expensive, we could have saved our father. Copy, copy. Okay. Now here are other conditional forms. Michael was right on target when he used the word every time. That's a good conditional form. Now we have as other conditional forms we have elided conditionals. You're familiar with the word elided? It means something was removed. So here's an example. My kingdom is not of this world. If it were, my followers would fight for me. So if it were of this world, my followers would fight for me. If it were of this world, my followers would fight for me. But it's not of this world. We also have conditionals that begin with since. Conditionals that begin with since. You see, class, since is an indicator of a real situation. So, since is an indicator of a real situation. Since you already finished your seat work, you may leave. Now, we have conditionals that begin with when. When is an indicator of something really expected. Okay, like when you walk through the waters, I will be there. It's when, not if. So it's really part of the Christian life that you will walk through the waters. You will experience problems. But even God will not take you away from problems. God will not take your problems away from you. You will always have problems because when you walk through the waters. But the promise of God is, I will be there. Notice I will, not I would. Okay? Okay. We also have conditionals that begin with ever since. Conditionals that begin with ever since. So ever since is an indicator of a start of a condition. Ever since is an indicator of a start of a condition. Okay? Here are examples. Ever since you came into my life, everything has changed. So present tense dapat. Ever since you bought him a game console, he keeps playing with it for long hours. Ever since you came into my life, everything has changed. Ever since you bought him a game console, he keeps playing with it for long hours. Ever since is an indicator of a start of a condition. Now, we also have conditionals with unless, which Filipinos might find difficult. This is actually maliban na lang. But some Filipinos use unless as an if. No, it's not an if, but it's still a conditional. Unless is used to indicate a contradicting situation. Unless indicates a necessary condition. Okay? So, unless is used to indicate a contradicting situation, it indicates a necessary condition. Unless a man be born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God. It's a necessary condition to be born again, according to the third chapter of John, where Jesus speaks. Unless a number is divisible by other numbers besides one in itself, it is a prime number. So type a conditional with unless into the chat box. So Zarina, you have an example. If I will be reincarnated next life, I would like to be an orange cat. You cannot use will, Zarina. You have to use would. Again, Zarina, you have to use would. That's the only problem in your conditional. So type a conditional with unless into the chat. Unless. Doggy, doggy, doggy. Let's meet the doggy. Very good, Hazel. Very good, Michael. Very good, Jasmine. Okay, correct, Alex. Always remember, maliban. Maliban na. Maliban lang na. So Angela and Elizabeth, correct. Okay, Jorwin, correct. She won't be happy unless you apologize. Malibang mag-sorry ka, hindi siya magiging masaya. Okay. So that's unless. Here are examples. Unless a number is divisible by 2, it is odd. Unless it rains, we will continue the parade. Unless you already have money, I will give you money for fare. Unless the car is broken, we can ride the car. So maliban lang na. Ice cream na. It's only 2:30. Now we also have only if. Only if stands for an exclusive condition. Again, only if stands for an exclusive condition. So only if stands for an exclusive condition. Only if stands for a necessary condition. It's necessary. So compare. A car will run if it has fuel. That's factually incorrect because you need other things other than fuel. So it's factually incorrect because you need other things other than fuel. But a car will run only if it has fuel. If it doesn't have fuel, it will not run. So fuel is a necessary condition. Here's a much better example. There is fire only if there is oxygen. Without oxygen, there's no fire. So when you have only if, then you're introducing a necessary condition. Okay? So in the first part, it's factually incorrect because you need more than just fuel for a car to run. But in number two, a car will run only if it has fuel. Having fuel is a requirement for a car to run. There is fire only if there is oxygen. Having oxygen is a requirement for fire. Then we have conditionals with "oh that." "Oh that" stands for intense yearning. It's usually used in literature or poetry, like, "Oh, that you would hear my cry, I would be happy. Oh, that I would be with you, I would be thrilled." So these are examples also of hypothetical, because there's some possibility that it would be true. Okay, so that's "all that." Then you also have "I hope" versus "I wish." "I hope" refers to something probable, not just possible. There's a good likelihood that it could happen. Like, "I hope I can get a good grade. I hope to finish my degree soon." So you have hope, therefore you use "can," not "could." "I wish," on the other hand, first refers to something impossible. "I wish you did not say that. I wish I was rich." Here you use past tense. You also use "could" and "would." Okay, Jasmine's example. "I would marry him only if he were a man of emotional." You use Jasmine, don't use past tense, because if you use past tense, then it's unlikely. So I will marry him only if he is a man of emotional intelligence. So don't use past tense, Jasmine, and don't use "would." You can use "will." "I will marry him only if he is a man of emotional intelligence. Thank you. Then another form of conditionals is WH plus ever. For example, whatever. So here's an example. Whatever he tells you, do it. That's equivalent to if he orders you to do something, do it. Okay, the wedding at Cana is the first was the first time Jesus revealed his glory. So weddings are very important to Jesus. We're still at WH plus ever. An example here is wherever. Wherever Mary went, the lamb was sure to go. Wherever Mary went, the lamb was sure to go. If Mary goes somewhere, the lamb goes there too. Wherever Mary went, the lamb was sure to go. That's equivalent to if Mary goes somewhere, the lamb goes there too. So we have WH plus ever. In this case, we have wherever. Wherever Mary went, the lamb was sure to go. That's equivalent to where if Mary goes somewhere, the lamb goes there too. Then we also have a declarative plus the word otherwise. Here's an example. A shark needs to move always, otherwise water cannot pass through its gills. And that's equivalent to if a shark does not move, water cannot pass through its gills. Now, when it comes to declaratives, the better punctuation is to use a semicolon. Class, a semicolon indicates that the two sentences are closely related to each other. So you use a punctuation, a semicolon, to indicate that the two sentences are closely related together. A shark needs to move always, semicolon, otherwise water cannot pass through its gills. So use a semicolon. Now, if you have a declarative plus otherwise, you can also have an imperative plus otherwise. Example, eat your vegetables, otherwise you will not have dessert. That's equivalent to if you don't eat your vegetables, you will not have dessert. Again, you have an imperative, also a command. So the command is eat your vegetables. Then you have the word otherwise. Then you have you will not have dessert. So it's a future conditional. If you don't eat your vegetables, you will not have dessert. We also have imperative plus and. Like, do that again and I'll punish you. That's equivalent to if you do that again, I'll punish you. Do that again and I'll punish you. That's equivalent to if you do that again, I'll punish you. So that's imperative plus and. Do that again and I'll punish you. Equivalent to if you do that again, I'll punish you. Then finally, we have generic statements. Generic statements can also be converted to if then statements like all kings are men. That's equivalent to if you're a king, then you're a man. And we have our attendance form. And as part of your attendance, I would like you to comment about your experience of use of YouTube Live today. Kamusta ba ang paggamit ng YouTube Live today? So please answer the attendance form with your comment. So class conditionals are quite difficult. I don't expect that you would master this in just 2 sessions, particularly the tenses in conditionals. They're quite tricky. So don't worry if you don't get it too much. Okay, thank you very much, class. And always remember, class, conditionals are quite difficult, particularly the use of tenses. It's not as straightforward as the other grammar lessons that we have. So thank you for filling out the attendance form and for your comments. So unless there are any more questions, then we can end this session. Okay, thank you very much. If you have no more questions, then bye. Thank you, Michael, for the conditional. Hindi magsasubmit ng notes. By the way, class, for your quiz, those who made a mistake despite my instructions, I will all give you all a chance. Actually, I will all give you a chance to do the quiz today, tonight at 7. So let me change that. 7 o'clock. So it will be at 7 o'clock tonight. 7 to 7:20, but you have only 15 minutes. And you have two attempts. If you already have one attempt this morning, then you have one more attempt tonight. Okay, thank you very much, class, and goodbye. Bye bye. Remember your quiz tonight. You don't need to take it. You don't need to retake it, but if you want to retake it, you can take it. Kung okay ka na dun sa mga sagot mo, then no need to retake it. But if you included the entire sentence, then you have to change and remove the you have to remove the anchor. Just include the tag question. Okay, bye bye.